It's the Joe Padula Show, Clarksville's conversation.
Absolutely.
With the COVID-19 vaccines rolling out, is it legal for the government or a workplace to force you to take it? Well, we're about to find out with Is It Legal with Lawyer Wayne. That's now on the Joe Padula Show. Absolutely. All right. Hey, don't forget to hit that notification bell. Make sure to leave those comments. Definitely share it on your timelines. All right. Well, Lawyer Wayne, what do you say?
Well,
because I got some information here because it's hitting home here. Tennessee, vaccines are rolling out today for the healthcare workers. Also, by next week, it looks like that the Tennessee Department of Health announced that they are taking steps of the arrival of Moderna COVID-19 vaccines arriving for mass production, for mass use. About 115,000 doses of vaccine over the next 2 weeks. But I don't know. Then I read these reports like this lady over in Alaska. Mm-hmm. Did you see this one? She's a healthcare worker who got one of the vaccines. And she got a serious allergic reaction and was hospitalized after taking the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine.
Yeah, see, it says side effects showing their true colors.
Yeah, the worker received the vaccine. Healthy lady normally. And 10 minutes after taking the vaccine, she showed signs of an anaphylactic reaction. She now speaks like a duck.
They don't pay for that.
Right.
yes.
She got her the Aflac shot.
Increased heartbeat, shortness of breath, and skin rash and redness.
No, anaphylaxis is scary. I get it if I get stung by a bee. That's why I have to carry an EpiPen. It's very scary.
Isn't that what killed the kid at the end of My Girl?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. That's exactly
Where's
it.
his glasses?
Yeah.
Where's his glasses?
What happened?
Random movie pull on that.
Mm-hmm.
For real.
Thought it might relate.
My Girl 2. Did you ever see My Girl 2?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, she grew up. She grew up in the sequel. Oh, sorry, Lawyer Wayne. Okay. So,
Focus, Joe. Focus.
That was
Tell
a
us more
terrible
about My
time to
Girl, too.
apologize to Lawyer.
but then recently, Tennessee lawmakers, they introduced a bill prohibiting authorities from forcing COVID vaccine.
Right.
All right? An East Tennessee lawmaker proposed a bill that would prohibit law enforcement, any law enforcement agency or government entity from forcing individuals to get COVID-19 vaccines. So I read that. If you need a bill to have that, so is it currently legal for law enforcement or government to force a vaccine on someone?
Well, they can do it to you in the healthcare profession.
I'm asking Lawyer Wayne.
Flu shot.
The answer is probably no. Right.
Okay.
So let's start with this idea. Nowhere in the world is there such a thing as mandatory vaccinations, except in two countries. Those are Slovenia and Belgium. Slovenia mandates vaccinations for a bunch of diseases, standard childhood vaccinations.
Is that
mandatory.
where Borat's from?
No,
Okay.
he's from Kazakhstan.
Sorry, my bad.
Slovenia is a different place.
Much better.
Belgium still has an old law mandating polio vaccine from like way back when polio was a big deal. Right. Those are the only two countries that I could find that have any mandatory vaccinations. What most other places do and what the U.S. does is the United States does not have any mandatory vaccinations at all, but they'll create rules like, well, your kid can't go to public school unless they're vaccinated. Right. You don't have to get vaccinated. But if you don't, we're not going to let your kid go to public school. So you got to do something else like homeschool, go to private schools, something like that. And there's lots of exceptions. Most states allow for, obviously all states allow for medical exceptions. And most states allow for other kinds of exceptions. Religious,
exemptions.
philosophical, others.
Julie just said that she can sign a waiver in a health care. Her and her coworkers do it for the flu shot.
Right. The question as to whether a private business, say, if I wanted to create a rule at my law firm and say, all right, staff, you've all got to get vaccinated or else you're fired.
Right.
I can probably do that. Right. It's
Legally.
my business, my choice. Right. I don't have an obligation to hire anyone.
It's not their body, their choice?
Nope.
As I hear at marches with people with pink hats?
They could take their body and make their own choices. But this is my business and I get to create my rules. And that's been generally upheld.
Wow.
That you can't force someone to take a vaccine, but you don't have to accommodate for them. And the government can generally withhold benefits. Now, there's an old case. By old, I mean 115 years ago, back in 1905, there was an old case where a Massachusetts did actually pass a mandatory vaccination law for smallpox. If you didn't do it, you got a $5 fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And there was one other big case where they ruled in the
That
20s.
ended up being deemed unconstitutional, though.
No, they held it up. They said it was okay.
If I read about it though correctly, because they were paying. You had to pay $5, right?
Right.
Now, if they force you to take a vaccine,
Well,
do they pay for it?
in that case, they said the law saying if you don't get the vaccination, you have a $5 fine. The court at that time said it's okay. The government can do that, and their idea was, realize how long ago that was. Back then, women couldn't vote. You had the Jim Crow era. You didn't really have the idea of that people have certain rights that we take for granted now, freedom of speech, things like that.
Now, you say law.
Yeah.
Now, what if it comes down as a mandate? That can a COVID-19 vaccine be mandated?
Nobody's tried it since then, right? You got one case in the 20s where they said, you know what, saying that the kid can't go to school unless he does the vaccine, right? We're not, because no one's ever tried in the United States to force anyone to actually do it. It's always, the worst they've ever done was like I said, the $5 fine, or can we withhold some government service on like schooling on condition? Well, there's always alternatives, right? Now in the modern times, you see, the Nazis came around, they ruined everything. Because you go from
damn Nazis.
Yeah, I know it's terrible. Because you start having the idea, well, the government can do anything they want to you, right? As long as it's for the public good. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Well, what's the limits? Well, the limits turn out to be we don't want government to just do anything to us, right? So starting in the 50s, you had a whole new way of looking at the law. You got the government saying, hang on a second, we got these constitutional rights, and a state can't just do anything they want to you within reason. Some things are important. And one thing that we really haven't ever had a case on is whether the right to refuse medical care is truly fundamental or not, right? Doctor comes to you and says, man, your headache's terrible. You ought to take this aspirin. You get to say, no, thanks, I don't want to.
That's right.
Well, don't we, though, kind of, with, for example, with the DNR? Because, for example, assisted suicide obviously is illegal in most places in the United States. However, if you sign a do not resuscitate, then you just lay there and die.
We have mostly, in the law, had the idea that you as an individual have the right to refuse certain medical care. Well, you might say a vaccination isn't just about you. It's not just for your medical care. It's about all of us. And the idea that they could certainly restrict benefits, right? They might say, well, you can't go to, and they might say your kid can't go to school unless they get this vaccination, and that would almost certainly be upheld. To say we're going to hold you down and forcibly vaccinate you, that's almost certainly impossible. I don't think that would be upheld at all by the courts.
Okay.
And there's a bit of gray area in between.
And there's going to be a lot of gray
What
area.
about the military?
Yeah.
Military?
Because we give up a lot. They poke you with any needle they want to.
Military,
man. Just drop your trowel.
If you volunteer for the military, as part of that, you volunteer to basically become your own by
I figured that was the answer.
And if you're drafted,
sucks to be you.
Yeah, it ain't your choice. You're drafted.
Don't worry, we haven't had a draft in quite some time. So
military operates under a whole different set of rules.
not for nothing, I think women should have to sign up for the draft, but that's a whole different story.
I think they do now, don't they?
Nope.
Not yet.
But see, I mean, that becomes the whole argument, right? Your body, your choice on that. So if it's your body, and then
there's no law that says your body, your choice. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying their argument on abortion.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They have a choice there because it's their body. But then if the government's going to come in and say we have to do this or you have to take that, then it's your body. I get to choose not to do that, even if the government says it's for the greater good.
It's funny, that old vaccination case during the pandemic. I think it was Texas shut down all their abortion clinics, and a bunch of people complained and said, "Well, don't we have the right to an abortion? You can't shut down our abortion clinics because of quarantine." And they said, "No, we got this old case that says we can do what we want." Because there's a disease out there, and they actually cited that case as part of it.
Interesting, crazy. Telling you, it's you give power, and they take these executive orders, all right, and like take what we were talking about with Cuomo, okay, and shutting down businesses. saying one guy, one person, that doesn't have to be a guy. Take Michigan. One lady, one guy, writing a pen on paper saying all businesses closed. That's some tyranny right there.
They
That's
have a
some tyranny.
definition for that, don't they? Dictatorship.
You're damn right it is. How long are we going to be going by these executive orders? When are we actually going to get law? Things passed as, presented as bills, talked about, discussed, voted on, if yay, passed, move forward, and go into signature where it becomes law. How long are we going to be legally afraid of mandates? How much longer? Is it going to end soon? Anyone have an answer? It's gotta. Because it is interesting that why would there be a bill in Tennessee where lawmakers are saying we will prohibit law enforcement agencies or government entities from forcing individuals to get COVID-19 vaccine?
Well, I will say this, like a lot of our lawmakers in Tennessee seem to be kind of proactive when it comes to putting forward bills that protect us from some of the dumb crap that happens in other states. Like we've had lawmakers put forward bills proactively to protect us from becoming like red flag states for Second Amendment stuff, things like that. They'll see stuff going on in other states and they're actually smart enough and proactive enough to throw this stuff at the General Assembly and be like, hey, we don't want that crap happening here. So it could be that it's already, not legal, but because other states like New York are trying to push the envelope here, the Tennessee lawmakers maybe are just
Why'd you point at me when you said New York? You see that? He lumped me into them.
Why'd I do that, huh?
Those damn Yankees.
But maybe they're just trying to be proactive.
Yeah.
That's my positive outlook on it.
I bought proactive.
Hey, Lawyer Wayne, Julie Dickerson Crossan asks, what about organ donation after you die? You sign it, it's on your driver's license, but your family can decide not to, ?
I
don't think your family can decide not to. I think that's your choice.
Right.
Oh, what happened?
Is family going to jump in and say, no, I want the liver?
So Julie, Joe's saying, what's the genesis of that question?
Yeah.
But I
I've never
think
heard of such a thing.
I'm sure
think
she's probably
Lawyer Wayne's question is, I worked in healthcare for what? And yeah, it's a...
Sounds like she's trying to tie that into the question about whose right is it to make choices about your body.
Yeah. Right.
Well, that would
talking
also,
about that
if the way with the organ donation
probably
thing,
right.
that would also sort of, if the family could come in and decide, no, we don't want that done, we want to go against their wishes, then people could do that all the time with, for example, the DNR.
Well,
Bottom line, someone signs that,
you're dead.
You can't.
Right, you're not there anymore.
Right.
To make those kinds of decisions.
But if you're smart,
that's like a
you've
question of
already-
a will. How
Yeah.
what are the laws regarding a will?
I don't know. You skipped that class in law school,
I did.
remember?
did.
He really did.
I never took that.
What,
one,
probate
so-
law and wills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't do that kind of work.
Very
I
interesting.
know
I-
what
I-
it mean-
I
I
noticed
know
'cause
what
I asked.
a will can and can't do business wise. Like the government, a will cannot force you to stay partnered with somebody you do not want to. Hey, me and Wayne are brothers. They give us each, half the, shared interest in the land. I want to sell it. He doesn't. We can't decide. I can.
Yeah, get rid of that
Either one of us
noise.
can force it to.
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, he would then
Closing.
probably have to buy you out. I mean,
Exactly.
there's other
In
stuff
other words,
there.
just because our parents put that will in place to say you guys own it together, we can't be forced to stay partners if we don't both agree. Is the point.
It's crazy times, but yeah.
It's the Joe Padula Show. Bada bing. Clarksville's conversation.